Hello, Mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
And welcome to episode 149 of the First Circuit Podcast. Tonight's hosts are Ian.
I still have a face.
You still got a face. Yes, you're the one on screen. We have Biter.
I still don't have a face.
He has no face. And I have no face either. My name's Oldbot10025. Tonight's topics are the MWO patch, MWO events and sales, and a MW5 Shill package. All coming up. Okay, so let's go talk about the patch here, because that's obviously going to be the first thing that we've been talking about here. So what do you guys think of the patch? About everything about it. Like let's go first through Polar Highlands. Let's go through that first.
All right, yeah, rework Polar Highlands.
Yeah.
We of course got to see previews recently, but yeah,
Mhm.
now we've actually all been able to play it and stuff. It's instead of just being a big, huge open plain with just a little bit up and downiness, there's a lot of hills, a lot of valleys, a lot
Yeah.
of buildings and rocks and mountains to climb on top of. It's a lot more busy a map nowadays.
Oh, definitely. If I played it last night, I did notice that a lot of people don't watch the valleys that are right next to them, and so like you can sneak up behind them and go shoot them, like while they're on top trying to snipe everybody. But in general, though, I mean, it's freaking amazing. They did a great job on this. I love this. NASCAR kind of got stopped, I guess, per se, but like now it's like on an outer edge. People are the NASCARing, but not like in
keep
the.
in mind,
Yeah.
on new maps, the NASCARing stops for a few days while people figure out how to NASCAR.
Oh,
It's
okay,
gonna
that's
be
right.
back in full force.
That's
It's
right.
just a quick pre-season break. The drivers need to refresh themselves,
Yeah.
spend some time at the lake, and the cars need to be repaired. And then in a week or so, we're gonna be back at max speed and zoom around the map.
Well, like basically, it's really hard to NASCAR in the middle, basically. Like unlike what it was before, it's a big dish, so it's really hard to NASCAR now because there's a bunch of valleys you go through. It doesn't have that straight circle. Basically, you have to go on the way outside of the whole map in order to to quote NASCAR normally type thing. But it's fun. It's a fun map. It's different and it's hard to get used to because there's so many different paths that people can take. So you really got to watch what you're doing and just watch your screen for different enemies that are on the battlefield. But it's cool. I definitely do like it. Yeah, and they did a great job on this.
Yeah, I think the simplest thought I have to start with is just that the original Polar was so sort of depressing to play if you didn't have the right lance setup or build.
Yeah.
That it was just a roll of the die. Every time you go into quick play and people pick Polar, and it's like, oh great, I did take the mech that's good for this map, or I didn't. Blah 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 blah, and it's just it's such a nuisance sometimes. Where both teams have mostly ranged mostly ranged builds, and they're trading it out, and your team kind of sucks, and you're like, well, I'm an SRM Atlas. I can share my armor at the right time, and with
Hmm.
calling out to the team that can be fine. But yeah, it was just so there was a very spotty coverage in regards to how much fun you had, and just the classic issue with just people talking about polar lands that there's no hard cover, or at least you're often with most randoms, you're not playing near hard cover. And so the LRMs would kill you. Whereas this map, I think there's a lot more hard cover. You have to try quite hard to get killed by LRMs where there's
Yeah.
no cover on this map. You have to go really far to the outside and snipe from out there, I guess.
That's usually what they do, and they usually like hang up on the if you see on the map here, there's two little small buildings like in the middle to the right. That's where they normally hang out at, and then also they hang out to the left of the main area. That's kind of like the sniping area basically. But you could run around and start sniping them from behind if you have a light mech or something like that. Go through the valleys. That's what I've been noticing. That's what I've been doing.
One thing that does remind me a little with this map, when you're trying to talk about where people snipe from and stuff, is just there isn't really that much in the way of landmarks for this map, so to speak. I mean, eventually people will come up with names and stuff with it, but at least uh, having seen the map a couple of times, it's just sort of there's just a lot of random hills and buildings everywhere, and so you're usually just relying on the grid coordinates, which can be a little bit messy sometimes, at least when talking with pugs, because when talking, when trying to do drop calls and stuff, if you give a grid coordinate, that means people have to look down and squint and find the right grid you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas on maps with some good, simple geometry, sort of like Rubelite Oasis, you can usually sort of say, the left castle, the right castle, or home base, away base, up top, down below, etc., etc. You very quickly can get that information. Whereas in this in this new Polar Highlands, um, its design is unlike a lot of the other maps in a way. Like other maps, usually the majority of PGI's maps are kind of there's a lot of space that 6 men can all push at once, so to speak. Um, like even on Rubelite Oasis, how many mechs can you fit, side by side by side when pushing up a ramp?
Yeah.
Other than the one ramp when you go on top of the buildings, the physical rock ramps, you can fit a lot of mechs side by side. In this map, though, there's a lot of lines of sight. There's a lot of thin gullies and approaches and shot places you can shoot from. But usually, you can only really sort of do so with 1 or 2 mechs. It's in a way, it's very cluttered, and it means everybody sort of has to spread out, or at least that's my vague guess. Like either you have to sort of barge on through, or everybody has to separate out and peek and prod from various odd little angles, and whoever pushes in gets punished. And I'm still not sure, if offense or defense is more favored. But one way or another, just the basic point is that I sort of wish in a ways there was more in the way of sort of obvious landmarks that could very quickly orient a player when you're actually in the map, that you could sort of look to the side and see where you sort of are relative to everything else. I do kind of like the big hills off to the sides,
Mm-hmm.
not because there's some very tall hills, somewhat to the left and right hand side of either team. And one of them isn't that tall, but one of them really quite is, and you can see it from a lot of places. And that one is at least sort of a nice focal point. I use it from time to time to figure out, where the hell I am and where I'm going.
True. Yeah, the only thing that that people have been kind of complaining about, the map's too big. It's too big for what it's kind of used for, basically, because everyone condenses down into generally probably about 40% of the map, and that's it. And then the rest of the map's pretty much not used. That's the only thing that I've been hearing, about the map itself.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's just the nature of the game. You're gonna
that's
find the place
yeah.
you're most comfortable fighting, and you're gonna gravitate towards that area.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What I found,
everyone sticks together. So, yeah, you're only ever going to see a small portion of the map.
what I found a bit surprising about this map compared to some of the more recent stuff we got, like the Grand Canyon rework, those 3 main islands, as they were called in the map preview, aren't really connected. You have to go down the ramp and go back up on a different ramp if
Hmm.
you want to switch from one island to the next, which confused me for a bit. And I'm gonna be looking forward to see how that plays out. If that's something people are actually gonna make use of, as Spider said earlier, split up, maybe have 2 or 3 battle groups and then a couple harassers, flankers on the side.
Yeah.
This map definitely has the potential for a lot of tactical play that Mechwarrior is lacking. I'm
Hmm.
just somewhat pessimistic given how long I've been playing this game and how I know most people play this game.
True.
Yeah.
NASCAR will come.
Like to make up a quick little theoretical, because there's each side has these 3 hills, and if the enemy push one of the hills, what can somebody who's at like the center of the right hill do to support the left hand side? Well, they can't run over a bridge or anything like that to quickly reinforce the left hill. They instead sort of have to just awkwardly push it to the center, or just that basically the defenders can't easily reposition from hill to hill, which means they can be easily isolated and defeated in detail. At least that would be my thought process.
Hmm.
How it actually plays out and how useful the hills are, because the hills are sort of always there's a lot of small building cover, and small building cover isn't actually that useful for a lot of mechs, because with how mech geometry works, a lot of the time, some part of you is poking out. And if some part of you is poking out, the enemy will just shoot at you. So you're not actually safe there. So there's only a few buildings that are actually big enough to shield a lot of the mechs that have long range, builds that can make use of these high firing vantage points. From the preview, they did talk about the three hills and whether they're not connected or not, and they did mention like, oh, we did have the plan to put like ice bridges in between the hills
Hmm.
so that you could move from hill to hill. I mean, you'll be exposed, but at least you don't have to rely on jump jets or going a long walk. And I think what they said was I forget the exact wording, but basically just the particular way this map is coded, they couldn't put in bridges. Like it gets way too complicated. Like I don't know exactly what it is, but just there's a lot of buildings and complexities in the map already, and adding in bridges might just make the thing go even more confused.
Yeah, I don't think adding
Too
bridges to
many
this.
factors,
It's
yeah.
fine just as is, though. To tell you the truth. I mean, you really don't have to really jump from valley to valley. You just go down, go up, and there's ramps all over the place.
Yeah, in a sense, I like that they don't have bridges.
Mhm.
If they had bridges, I feel like it would just be like, Spider, you brought up Rubelite earlier, with the two rising sides on the side. And in this case, it would be 3 islands. On the other thing, it's the castle thingies.
Mhm.
And this way, it does feel like a very much different map. And
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't really gotten the chance to play it that much yet. I've been
Mhm.
kind of unable to find it from the last 3 hours of playing, which sucks a lot. But off the top of my head, I can already see quite a few spots where my usual short-range LRM style would be probably quite effective, and
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to giving it a shot and seeing what works on this map and what doesn't.
definitely.
Yeah. So, to just give my sort of final thoughts on this map, because it's still very much early days, and we have to wait and see how it all pans out. Um, this map is very much a culmination of somewhat what felt what we got in kind of with Canyon Network, in the sense that we add a lot of extra little pieces of terrain and we remove big central objects and stuff like that. And like the maps become very sort of, in some ways, sort of cluttered and force you down paths where only one mech can go through. So like with Canyon, the old canyon, that there was a big, huge slope going up. You could have a whole team push up there, and there was no cover. But if everybody did it, it was quite effective. And so what they did was, of course, they changed it so there's a lot of rocks and cover that you can use against people pushing up that ramp. And so if you're pushing up the ramp, you're usually sort of doing it just one or two mechs. And when you push up to the very top, there's a whole bunch of firing angles possibly open to you. And that's the same kind of feeling I get with this Polar, where you're often, instead of having big, wide ramps, you're having a lot of thin corridors to try and split players up. And players often, when they emerge from a corridor or something like that, there's 5 or 6 different angles they have to cover.
Mhm.
And this will be sort of a bigger trial case to see this new design philosophy in question, because I think obviously this is kind of where we'll be going with all the other maps that they're planning to tweak in future. I think like HPG is probably next up on the editing block, where the HPG has the big giant central hill that people like to run around. And so
Yeah,
what we're going to the plan is, at least the rumblings I've heard, is obviously open up that central hill, give you chances to shoot across from it, so many more angles, many sort of try and restrict the number of people who can all push up a ramp all at once, etc., etc. And ultimately, at least as we go through map by map by map, we're changing the feel of the flow of all the maps in the game to this more cluttered and restrictive sort of thing, but there's still plenty of options, plenty of ramps and places to go to, rather than just one big hill that you run around.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Good analysis
That is
on.
an interesting point. I haven't thought about it. Now that you mention it, the maps, in the way that they feel busy, kind of remind me of what was the game? The kind of first-person shooter where you constantly respawn and you don't really work as a team. You're just yourself, and you run around small corridors, try to pick off singled-out enemies. And
That's every
in a
game.
sense, that's kind of the impression I'm getting from a lot of these canyons. So what I am hoping for is that they don't rework all the maps with this design philosophy, leave some in the old way, change some to this new way. And I do think it's gonna take months, maybe even years, until we see how the Mechwarrior community as a whole adapts this very different philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for the time being, it makes sense to have like 2 or 3, 4 maps or something like that that have this different philosophy. People play it for several months, see if they like it or dislike it, and you can learn from that experience. And so, first things first is of course change several of the maps so that players have a larger body of these types of experiences to play from to see whether they prefer it or whether they prefer the older style.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I played games of the Rework Canyon today, and it's quite obvious that Canyon is one of those maps that encourages splitting up as a team more than most of the maps. And basically, any game I play in Canyon, I get at the end these ulticoms. Yeah, thanks for NASCARing away and leaving me to die. And I feel
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
that's gonna be even worse on this map. So that's gonna be great.
Well, just give it time. It'll be NASCAR, at some point, I guess. But it was
We'll
fun,
have
like
to wait.
nonetheless. So
Yeah, have to wait and see because yeah, the benefit of NASCAR, at least for undisciplined pugs, is just form a blob, hold W. It's a very simple and effective tactic that you maintain cohesiveness. Um, with what Ian was talking about, like I'm not sure which first-person shooter, but it's basically like a free-for-all, like sort of like a Quake game or something like that. Just a long, big, huge maze map that you're in, and you're just roaming around, shooting targets of
mm,
opportunity, and that's sort of the different design philosophy that is falling into. And yeah, it is very it is it's very hard to keep cohesion when everybody is sort of splitting up, and there's the question of um, if you have a very competent lance or just a couple of pilots, they could very well dominate areas of the map. And with how random players usually play, they could very well just kill half the team before you even notice.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Okay. Next on the list, I believe, is a mech mobility chain. No, actually, which one is it? It's the
Yeah, agility pass 2.
yeah. There was also something else too. There was a
Oh
for
yes,
spawn points.
Tourmaline.
Yeah, spawn
Yes.
points. Okay, so they've changed spawn points. Okay, so next is mech mobility challenge. So
Have you guys had any chances on Tourmaline
I haven't
for
even
assault,
noticed.
conquest, or domination?
I haven't even
I've
noticed, man.
got the map a couple times, but never got one of those spawns.
Mm.
Or
Yeah,
maybe I got some of those spots and I got a changed one and didn't even notice. That's how good the changes are.
Yeah,
Who knows?
the
they.
most prominent ones I know about, of course, with Tourmaline is it's when you're actually dropping together as a group
Oh,
because it's
okay.
the alpha spawns that often are very quickly within line of sight of one another. And so, if you're a group taking a long-ranged deck, LRMs, large lasers, or PPCs, or whatever, on Tourmaline, you can often spawn, walk forward a very short distance, and then start blapping away at the enemy alpha lance. Which means
Okay.
if they take brawl, they can be screwed. Just they have a huge, vast expanse to walk across, and that was something people have been clamoring for to be changed for quite some time, and it's finally, hopefully, been ameliorated.
Okay. So I'll lead off to Biter here for the mech mobility changes, because obviously that's not my department.
All right. As usual, I've done the changes on my MWO packages spreadsheet. So if anyone's interested, they can go on over there.
And I'll leave the link down
And
below, by the way, too.
yes, because this touches on like the agility of the vast majority of mechs in the game, and they just sort of give us a big, huge table, and it's kind of hard sometimes just to sort of at a glance tell how much better things are getting or whatever. And so, just for my table, as usual, I just done the simple color coding for the various different mechs and stuff, so that you can sort of see what has actually been changed. Uh, Otherwise, um, yeah, the vast majority of mechs are getting agility buffs across the board for the majority of factors. Not all, like we aren't touching at all arm mobility, but every mech will have 30 degrees, 20 to 30-degree pitch. Well, 25 to 30, I think it is. So all mechs will be able to look up and down about the same amount, even assault mechs. So you can't hug the legs of assault mechs quite as well. Yaw has been often vastly improved for the majority of mechs. So this is the ability you're actually able to make your mech look left and right. So your mechs will always sort of be able to look further than, like 90 degrees or so, which has often been sort of limiting on certain certain variants. Acceleration, deceleration, turn rate. Those who are usually like the trend, I would say. Yeah, it's really tough to say because there's just so many mechs. But the trend is usually if one mech is really falling behind, that one is the one that gets the biggest buffs, so to speak.
Mhm.
So, sort of mechs like the Firestarter, of course, had quite lethargic feeling agility, and they've given it a second injection of agility. So now the Firestarter is just as agile as the Wolfhound, whereas in the past the Firestarter had like half the agility of the Wolfhound. And I think what was it? Cougar, Adder, those have hugely changed. Have you guys ever seen like the Adder and Cougar? Like
I
they.
played them today,
Yeah, like I
and they
played.
felt like whole different mechs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. The Cougar.
Honestly, quite to the detriment because they feel so different that I just couldn't aim with my adder anymore. Those PPCs suddenly went all over the place. Not a
Hmm.
chance.
Jeez.
It's one of the confusing things in MWO, just your muscle memory with all the different mechs. Like there's just some people complain that you have to build up a certain muscle memory to get used to the agility values of one mech, and then if you switch from variant to variant or mech to mech, they just get put out of place. And so, yeah, all your muscle memory is just again getting thrown through the ringer.
True.
uh, yeah, I think the thing is I mean, this is going to go too quickly into some of my own feelings about the changes, but like, generally speaking, it's sort of you had mechs like the Wolverine versus like the Griffin, for example, and just Wolverine. It was hella more agile. It's one of the most agile 55 tonners out there, and it's a fairly good mech, but. You don't usually, at least with random pugs, you don't usually hear too many people care too much about rave too much about the Wolverine. You don't see it too often. It's not like the
No.
Vapor Eagle has sort of been. Um, and the same sort of goes for so even though it has way better agility, and even though the Griffin's sort of catching up, the agility values are all still sort of, at least for the time being, it doesn't feel too impactful. It's just like, all right, yeah, this thing is 20% faster acceleration rate. So instead of reaching top speed in 0.7 seconds, I'm doing it in 0.6 seconds. Now, that's good. That is an improvement. That is, in the right hands, that can do really good. Like agility is no joke. It's in the right hands. But in a lot of cases, a lot of mechs aren't even getting agility passes, particularly the ones that already were kind of agile. So this just really is sort of a bit like May last patch, where Atlas, Kodiak, et cetera, the ones that were really falling behind have gotten a huge bump up, but their bump up is usually making them on a similar level to the best in the category. Like everything is becoming kind of more samey. Instead of having a sort of an x equal y curve, it's just an x equals half y curve.
Mhm.
It's a much flatter curve now in terms of the different agility values, which means in a way, in my personal opinion, it just makes all the mechs feel a lot more samey.
I
But
would like to chime in with that.
yeah,
Again, the example Adder earlier. The Adder now feels like an actual light mech. And it
mhm.
doesn't feel terrible, but it does feel like it has lost its character, its uniqueness. I'm basically a heavy mech, only in a light mech form factor, and now it's just, hey, I'm a light mech with heavy weapons.
Like it's with the adder, at least when you're starting up speed wise, 80 acceleration. That's pretty close to like, well, I mean, it's better than some fleas. It kind of handles, or the deceleration is still way better for a locust or a flea, like twice as good, or 50% better. But still, you're in a 35-ton clan mech, and it's just when everyone is special, no one is. Though, yeah, here's sort of my a way to sort of talk about this, at least in my head, is sort of when we had the weapons patch. I think that thing generated a lot of hype
Yeah.
because um, the simple idea is just say, hey, they buffed like snub noses. I wonder how they do snub noses. I'm going to pick whatever mech I feel like is good with snub nose, and I'm going to try put it on that mech. You know, I'm going to try snub nose on like a spider or something. Um, with these agility changes, um, it sort of is leading you into an odd path. Like if it's a really underperforming mech with terrible agility, you're like, oh wow, the adder, it's got way better agility. You take it out, it's like, wow, yeah, this handles like a much more agile mech nowadays, and that's great. But then you remember it's kind of like an adder, and it's kind of a big target, like it's a big blob. Um, and some of the mechs that are really good at agility, just if you like your Vulcans or your Zeuses, Zeus, by the way, is getting bugger all almost, because the Zeus, the Zeus, the only thing it had going for it, for example, was just that it had really good agility. Like it had the handling of like a 55 tonner, like a bad 55 tonner. And that was kind of cool. Like you had an 80 tonner that handled like a 55er, but now all the 80 tonners are handling closer to the Zeus, and the Zeus is hardly changed. Um, and so, I like the Zeus, but it's not like I'm going to go and now try and play the Zeus because yaw has increased by 10 degrees and pitch has increased by 5 degrees. I'm only going to be picking the ones that, like the Charger, the ones that actually are getting a huge buff. Uh, Yeah, it for me. I just doesn't feel like it's kind of neat, but it's just like with last patch. Eventually, you're just like, oh yeah, there's a reason why I didn't play these mechs, and agility was part of it.
Hmm.
Particularly like for the Timberwolf, but a lot of these are underperforming variants or mechs in general. Like the Zeus, for example, has no arm survival, but has most of its variants have weapons stuck in the arms. So you have good agility. It's just if you shield well, you get all your weapons blown off. Has that been changed by the agility fixes? No, they haven't even touched the agility. The Zeus is just relative to everyone else, struggling even more now, so to speak. Um, One thing I advocated for, though obviously I got completely ignored, was I said mechs like the Zeus, everything's mounted in the arms, but the ability for the arms to move side to side, is only 20 degrees. Whereas an awesome, it can move its arms 40 degrees. Charger, 30 degrees. Hatamoto, 30, etc., etc. Like, um, the Zeus is an arm-mounted mech that can't even move its arms. Couldn't we touch on that? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just sort of, yeah. I
But you
mean,
bring up a good point though, because like I mean, generally like with the weapons patch, it's like everyone's was excited to use the snub nose to see how it works, right? But with this, it's like I mean, you don't like sit there and go, well, it was like a 0.5 degree, like acceleration boost. And it's just like, okay, I don't even notice that. I'm running through the, doing the thing. But yeah, you're exactly right on that though, man.
yeah. In some ways, with everything becoming more normalized, like with all the agility values sort of going towards the same mean, so that we've bumped all 80 tonners to be closer to the Zeus. Um, it reminds me of like why I really don't like the engine desync thing, because just uh you you might as well just always just take an okay acceptable enough engine and not usually just take plenty of firepower, and you might as well take whichever mech has the better agility. And because in the end you might as well just like i i by making all the agility about more samey, it feels like we have to lean even more heavily onto quirks and hard points and shape
Hmm.
and stuff. Like engine cap and engine choice or agility is just being de-emphasized even further. It's becoming a further homogenized in this amorphous blob. If you're an 80 tonner, all of them will handle about the same-ish. I mean, there are still differences, but not significant enough ones. And some mechs are just so far behind. Even if you give them a big buff, they are, it's not really noticeable. I think there were some entry errors, or just like when so to give more context from the Cauldron, from what I understand, of course, they gave PGI a bunch of values that they wanted to be put into the game, and PGI then has to put it through their system. Somebody has to enter the data. And the way you enter it into the game is you basically sort of give mechs an imaginary engine size for every single attribute, so to speak. So acceleration, deceleration, etc. So you can't put in exactly 50 deceleration or 50 turn rate. You have to fiddle around with the imaginary engine rating to get as close as possible to 50. But that means sometimes you go over, sometimes you go under, and sometimes they just kind of saw a number that was close enough. Oh, I was supposed to get 12, and they got 13, and they're just like, yeah, that's good enough. So like I think the Fafnir hero got the biggest accidental buff. It got an extra like what was it? It's like an extra 12% acceleration than it was intended. But it's still all we're talking about is going from 8.5 to 13.11. So it's a 50% increase, but it's 50% on incredibly bad. So it's still pretty bad to start up with the Fafnir, but it is what it is. So yeah. Talking of data entry, I think we should get into the more sort of fun topics
Okay.
just a little bit. The Stormcrow,
Oh
the
yeah.
invasion variant,
Do you mind
of
if I give
course.
some closing thoughts as well?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, BrioS talked a fair bit about most of the things that we as a group feel. For the most part, mobility is not something I pay too much attention to, especially since I play with joystick, and mobility doesn't really matter with joystick because you're not utilizing the max mobility anyway. The way joysticks are implemented in Mechwarrior Online, you're kind of stuck with X percentage of what is technically possible, and anyone with a mouse is going to be able to move considerably faster than any joystick player. So for the most part, I don't care too much about mobility. I could feel some of the differences, but it didn't matter too much in terms of hype. You could totally see some of the mechs that were hyped about, that were talked about before, like the Timberwolf being played way more. But I'm fairly certain that's gonna subside in a couple days. And yeah, stuff like the Cougar Adder, like on the first glance, I was like, hey, this is cool. I can move fast now. Second glance, though, it kind of lost some identity. So overall, I'd say the mobility changes were quite meh, and I don't really have a positive or negative opinion on the whole thing.
Yeah, I think just more agility is sort of nice in the sense that it always feels good when you're just in the pilot seat of one of these mechs and you can just twist that little bit faster or look down and up a bit better. And so this is like a huge amount of work to give us what amounts to a quality of life change. How much it impacted weapon balance and everything else, how good people were able to twist damage away and all that remains to be seen. Though for the most part, it feels like a quality of life improvement. One approach that I've talked about in the past, at least sort of the way I approached balancing mechs in this game, was I said, all right, what I'm going to do is I look at each individual variant of a mech and see what kind of buffs I should give to it to make it more viable. And so you go through every single mech in the game. So you go through all the locusts and say, all right, what do the locusts needs? Let's buff all their agility, but give each individual variant quirks that actually help make them viable, etc., etc. And in my head, if you every month you just come out and you patch 2 or 3 mechs with quirks and agility to make them cohesive and make sense, that sounds way more fun and interesting because it's like, all right, this month they gave locusts more agility and hit and run style quirks. So laser duration, ammo economy, like more ammo for the weapons, missile velocity for the missile ones, etc., etc. So hey. This month they patched the locust and a medium and a heavy and an assault. So if I'm going to try out the new locust, I want to see how the new quirks are. I want to do this and that. That sounds way more interesting than, all right, I'm a locust pilot. Let's see what I got. If I'm in the right variants, I'm getting 15% turn rate and 15% acceleration. Oh wow. Like that just is not pulling me to the locust. I'm just we're just waiting for quirks really, because these agility changes are normalizing everything so that we could quirk things later. It feels like.
Yeah.
Another way to look at it is because there were so many changes at once, none of them stand out. So there's a really good chance that in this giant list there are a couple mechs that really improved noticeably in their feel and how they play and how they perform, and we just didn't stumble over them because there was so much data we overlooked them. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm really keen to try out things like just sort of the Shadow Cat a little bit, because that has mask and it has a 20% buff to most things. So 20% buff on top, and then you put mask on top, which is a multiplicative, it multiplies the buffs basically.
Mm.
So it'll be a lot more agile. But yeah, I'm just going so much. I put so much work in looking into all the different agility changes, and it just makes me miss the old times when engine choices matter and stuff. But that's just me.
Okay. Yeah, so agility basically came out. We're gonna go with the fun part of the of the podcast, which is the Stormcrow. Take it away.
I would like to give credit, but I couldn't figure out who was the first person to notice this. I'm certain that by the end, a couple of person noticed this independent. But anyway, the Stormcrow in a single, very specific variant, the Prime and its Invasion variant, has a interesting turn rate bug. So let me just, if you're on YouTube, you can probably see it. This is how the Stormcrow should turn. I'm currently at max speed, using just my A and D keys rather than my joystick to really show you the max turn rate. It feels like a medium mech. But look at this. I slow down a bit and boom, suddenly my
Turns
turn
into a
rate
death
explodes.
blossom.
And now I'm standing still and it's a spiral and I'm getting motion sickness. And it's beautiful. Let me show you in third person. There it is.
Oh my god.
It's a spiraling Stormcrow.
And a
Oh,
lot of
So
people
beautiful.
using this to taunt enemies, like the last person alive left in the match, the Stormcrow just run in front of them and then just spin on the spot. It's like, hit me.
So fun story about that. I think on Tuesday I first read about that. Lars posted a link with a video clip and I was like, wait, I'm aware I have that particular invasion variant that cost me a couple $100. And I went in a game. I had no idea what's going on. My joystick wasn't working, so I had to play with mouse and keyboard, which is terrible. I ran into the enemy line, right dead and center. Everyone shot me, and I started spinning. And everyone stopped shooting me. And they just stared at me.
shock and awe.
And I spun and I spun and I spun. And like 30 seconds later, they continued shooting. And it took them in total good 2 minutes to actually kill me.
Well, yeah, you're using your armor effectively. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, spreading damage in the best possible way.
There's probably some issues with netcode or something or other as well. Just the game, like when shooting at the commando, it gets kind of confused when you go too fast.
Probably.
I mean, that's partly why, at least on the lights mix, like locusts aren't able to get many more buffs because they're getting close to, at least fleas in particular. I think like you're getting close to the limits of what
Yeah.
the netcode can handle. And so therefore, all you can do is bring everything up to the level of the locust. But for all the others, yeah, it's the usual thing. Yeah, and I think
Speaking of
that was
breaking
just
the game, I'm not touching anything. I just want to say I'm make a spinning. I'm not touching anything. It's just spinning.
yes.
Damn.
Yeah, so this is this is just data entry error. Like I think it's supposed to be like 2, but they entered in 12.
Too
And
funny.
that's the kind of thing that will fly through sometimes when you put this many changes into the game all at once. It's just bugs happen.
It's kind
And
and it's kind of like the bug with the stream of missiles that Beef found a long time ago, that had a
the
recharge
quick
rate.
draw.
Yeah, the quick draw one.
1000% cooldown on
Yeah,
the
1000% cooldown.
LM 5 or LM 10, something like that.
It was
Just
something weird.
missile cooldown universal, so you
Ah,
could have 10,000% cooldown on any missile weapon you wanted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
A single SRM2, single Streak 2, single LRM5, whatever you wanted would have a ridiculous fire rate.
It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. Just on this topic of data entry errors, I think there's a couple more. The Uzil champion got very low acceleration at lower speeds. So the Uzil champion is kind of sluggish to start off with, oddly feeling. The Arctic Wolf 2 got oddly high acceleration and deceleration at top speed. So, just it going up, it's going up, vroom, and you suddenly go to top speed. And I think lastly, the Rifleman 5D is the final one that got a little bug, that very high acceleration at low speeds. So it's very, very quick off the mark for a Rifleman.
Yeah.
But these ones, even though they have ridiculous values, particularly like the Rifleman, um, even when you put like the Rifleman acceleration to like 200 or something crazy, it's barely, it's kind of, it is noticeable, but you hold down the go forward key and you're going forward, a little sooner than you normally would be, but
Yeah.
you're still a big target. So even ridiculous values, acceleration doesn't necessarily change too much, or it doesn't feel like that after this patch.
Yeah, this is a great showcase for how little agility actually matters in combat when you have these 4
Mhm.
mechs that on paper are utterly ridiculous in certain cases. But even if you're aware of them and trying to actively make use of them, like the Stormcore turn rate, if I want to be super agile, just slow down a bit. I have insane turn rate, spin around, back out. In actual gameplay and how I perform in that match, it really doesn't change a whole lot. And I fully understand why PGI is not hot fixing this. And honestly, I'm kind of hoping they just leave it in until the next patch. Get people
Yeah.
who own these mechs a chance to
Have some fun.
enjoy the ridiculousness and then realize how little it matters.
Yeah, I mostly see it for showboating rather than being abused too much. Though you never know, somebody with a medium pulse Stormcrow at some point at higher levels could, pull off some good 360 no scopes.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Right,
Right,
and
I think that
we have
Yeah, that,
one final thing referring to the Polar Lerman's rework. Apparently, there's a bug with geometry. So, if you're wondering why you're shooting a wall and stuff is flying through the wall, there's a minor issue somewhere on the map. I couldn't find it in testing grounds, so can't be that
yeah.
bad.
okay.
I have heard some people talk about or mention sometimes issues with popping or whatever. I haven't had come across that myself yet, but with so much clutter, I could imagine at some point you could have that issue.
Yeah, I guess that's the point where all the engines do show their limitations when it comes to popping and maps that are this busy and have this many objects on them.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I have heard. I think at least there is might be a hot fix, though. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, because obviously PGI were busy with Mechwarrior 5, which is why this patch came out quite late in the month. Because usually they try and get patches out early on in the month, and I think this means next month's patch is probably not going is going to be relatively Spartan, and we'll have to wait and see. But basically, it's everything's going to be delayed a bit just because of MechWarrior 5, and because they spent a lot of time putting in this huge agility changes.
True.
In regards to future changes on my spreadsheets, by the way, at least there is an extra tab at the bottom called Other Cauldron Proposals. Um, we might go over those in more detail in the future, or at least when we actually know those will be confirmed.
Yeah.
But basically, I think up next might very well be jump jets, because those, a relatively simple one that you can do next month without changing too many data values. Um, just buffing up the jump jets a bit, particularly like upward thrust for smaller jump jets. I think there, uh, longer duration for bigger jump jets. So your assault mech, if you take a big jump jet, you will have a longer burn time, which means you can more easily get on top of hills rather than using it to, evade enemies. You're using it to just get to high spots. I think that's where they're trying to push the jump jets. Though these are just, what values I seen a while ago, that all might be subject to change. And I think in future they're also planning a bunch of weapon changes, though again, these are all possibly subject to change, just some heat and range for some lasers. a bit more damage for snub. Streaks, they are bringing numbers somewhat halfway in between, before they fiddled with them and after. So pre and post April values, they're bringing them halfway. The reasoning is always a bit kind of there, but yeah, there'll be some more fiddling in future.
Okay. Next up is events, which will be the hot targets, fast mechs, and cool maps. We had a streamer hunt event, a mech sale, and a challenge event, which I have an issue with. But let's get into those. The streamer hunt. I found out about it because I don't pay attention to the Discord that much because I have like 60 or 70 Discord things going on, so I kind of miss some things. But like Bombadil said, or Darren said, "Hey, we're having one this weekend." So I find out by someone else talking about it, and yeah, it was 300 MC per bounty per kill, and I did it on Friday night, and then also actually Friday morning, and then also Friday night, and it was it was a standard game. People got MC for killing me, I guess. It was fun, It was there. Like no one really talked like we're gonna get you or like stuff like that. But it was okay. It wasn't too bad.
How do any of you know how much MC do you need at the minimum to buy GSP?
I don't know actually. To buy GSP?
I'm kind of wondering how the bounties compare. Like 300 MC, that's 2 mech base. That's always one of the best comparisons. Nowadays, I'm more looking at GSP. How much GSP can you get for your time
Well,
investment?
it should be inside the store basically, right?
Yeah, I'm checking the
To go
store.
purchase
Give me 1 second. You
GSP.
can buy it.
A
Bundles.
100 GSP bundle is 1.25k right now
Wow.
available in store.
Wow.
Yeah, so 300 MC really is nothing.
It's one mech bay, basically.
Well,
Like when
2
they're on.
on sale. You should never buy
Two on
mech base
sale.
for full price.
Well, okay,
PSA.
yeah, okay, two, yeah, two of them. But yeah, so
It's equivalent to what you get from a week's events because they often give 100 to 300 MC around about that ballpark. And I just stack up the MC waiting until either mech bays or heroes are on sale. And that's what I use it on rather than GSP. Well, personally, of course, I have like thousands of GSP, so
Yeah.
I didn't even know where to look for this to purchase it.
yeah,
Interesting though, I believe last event you got 100 GSP for killing someone, which would obviously be a value of 1200 MC. So just
Hmm.
interesting thing.
I mean, like I
Filling
think
out a whole
300,
mech.
the 300 like MC is a little bit much though, to tell you the truth. Um, I mean, it's like they're just giving candy away basically, like for people not to purchase like MC.
Well, they're giving away free mechs as well. Just the idea is to drive up player counts, and they're making more
Meh.
money off at least the last, what was it, the striker pack. I
Yeah.
don't know how the warden pack's doing. So,
Well,
it,
Hmm.
well,
yeah,
the striker pack is they're half off. All mechs are half off, by the way, too. So that includes the Thunderbolt and the Dragon. They were in the a new or the old pack. I forget what that one's called actually. You guys know what that one's called?
Striker. You just said
the
Striker?
it.
Grand
Okay.
Dragon.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Striker pack. So those are half off MC. Shut up. Those are half off like MC. Yeah, I'm
And
tired, man. I'm
I
tired.
don't think we never recommend buying C-bill variants for MC.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
just wait until they're out for C-bills in a couple months' time. If you waited this long, just wait a bit longer, and you can pick up these for CG for free
Unless, of
later.
course, you've spent all of your seabills on skilling up existing mechs and you have a couple thousand MC lying around, then sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
In those weird
Yeah. I
exceptional
guess so.
circumstances.
Now is as good a time as any. 50% on mechs, as far as I'm aware, is the biggest discount you're gonna get on a mech.
Yep.
Yep.
All mechs are 50% off. So, could go in and go purchase whatever you need right now if you got some extra C bills, or if you got some extra MC, purchase some heroes that you've always been wanting to get.
Well, since the majority of mechs have gotten better agility, it is
Yeah.
nice to actually be able to pick them up if you had dropped them in the past, or oh, there's this one variant that now has not got sucky agility anymore. Like, I think the Blackjack 1X has finally got its torso yaw fixed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So in terms of should you pick up anything, it's gonna go on until July 1st, which is Thursday after the release of this episode. So you still have a couple days on that. The stream hunt, obviously, only weekend is gonna be over by the time you're hearing this.
yeah.
And then lastly, there's an event going on as well until Thursday.
Yeah,
Which
I got a problem with it. A big problem. It's the same
is
problem
the
I had.
shipment release.
It's the shooting UAV things again. Basically, you must play 5 matches in Polar Highlands. So how long did it take you to get in Polar Highlands, Ian? Did you ever get in one?
Well, play one match in Polar Highlands, 0 out of 1.
Okay, so 3
In
hours of
4
playing.
hours, I've been unable to get it.
Yeah, so 4 hours of playing. Basically, you're relying upon 23 other people to hopefully basically get inside this, get inside Polar Highlands or Hypernal Rift, and
Well, for
that's
me,
an
the issue
issue.
was it never showed up on the list to the point where after those 4 hours, I shut down the game and I went to Discord like, hey guys, is Polar Highlands disabled? Is there something wrong with the
Yeah,
map? I couldn't get it.
yeah, I know. So that's an issue that I thought we talked to Matt about that, but oh well. Basically about the it's the same thing as UAVs. Basically it requires a certain amount of forces for that to happen, and a lot of times it just doesn't come up. And winning 5 matches on Polar Highlands sucks. Trying to get that done.
Yes. Yeah, it's particularly has to be victories.
Yeah,
So you have to roll a die to first actually hopefully get the map, and then B, you have to hope that you actually win the match.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's the reward is nice. Like what, 200 MC, 50 GSP? That's great. But you might be playing this for ages until you actually get it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I really like the idea of doing play match on X map because you're encouraging people to vote for the map, which is great for new maps if you just want to play, try it out. We've had it in the past where we've gotten new maps that people immediately disliked and you saw it the first day and then never again. And this way you're going to be guaranteed to at least get it for a week or so as long as the event is running.
Good point,
Um,
actually. Yeah, good point on that
yeah,
one.
victories on a map is always too many
I think
variables for my taste.
the thing though with this type of event though is that it only really works until people actually earn the rewards, and then they're just done.
Mm.
And yeah, we run into the problem that Bob was bringing up. It's just that you might be stuck, and you, Ian, of course, you're stuck playing for ages, and it never really comes up, or you're looking for a particular result. Like it just pushes people. Like it does push people to play the maps, but pushing people makes it uncomfortable. And once everyone's done it, it's just kind of annoying.
I just saw there's an event to lose a match on both maps.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's gonna be easy for me when I finally get Polar.
yeah. And Hybrid Rift. I haven't got that yet, actually. Like I played for I think 5 hours, and I haven't gotten Hybrid Rift. I got Polar Islands about 6 times, 6 or 7 times, I think. Three.
Like, if
Four.
this were a game with a larger population, which it isn't, but in games with larger populations, what you do sometimes is like, oh, there's an event for, there's a new map. Here's a separate queue you can go into and play just that map, and
Hmm.
play
Ooh,
test it to your heart's content.
that's a good
That
idea.
would be great if you wanted to earn this reward, but of course you're splitting up the player base, and there just isn't really the player base to have those separate queues.
True.
But I'm not sure how you can um, make it so that you like. In some ways, it would be great if there was an option like you could some other games have a map preference option. That you can
Mm.
say, I want these maps more often, and I don't want these maps so often. So if I'm
Oh,
taking like a brawler, like an Atlas with SRMs, I can say, Mining Collective, yes, please. Polar Highlands, the old Polar Highlands, I guess.
yeah.
No, thank you. Um,
A lot of games
but
have that, like World of Tanks. You can do that as well. Pick maps
Mhm.
that you do want to go and use. And I think World of Battleships too. I think, but World of Tanks has that though.
Yeah, and
And at least
so
for the event, for future reference, Matt, if you're listening, I would very much like if you could put the likelihood of getting the new maps to the vote higher than all the other
Yeah,
maps.
yeah, that would
I know
definitely help.
PGI can do it, they've done it in the past, and I'm kind of disappointed they haven't done it this week.
Uh,
Because again, 3 hours without even getting the choice to pick Polar Islands, that sucks.
yeah,
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 yeah.
true.
As far as I'm aware, though, they're hella busy, and they probably that tool, that that button is lost deep in the annals of the game's history, and nobody knows where it is right now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
The
So
worst
I
case, you have to go into one of the old repositories and pull the files back out to modify the matchmaker. Yeah. I know
yeah.
how stuff works.
Yeah. Kill streamers get well, obviously that's gonna be gone by the time this is done. So they had an event about killing streamers, and I think that's it for the events, right?
Oh
No.
no, my dear
Oh,
old
Speed of Light
friend,
event. Okay,
the best event of the month.
that's still going on
Yeah,
actually.
yep,
Yes.
this one's still gonna be going on again until end of the week. Well, end of the month, and you can earn the Javelin 11A, which I believe is the 4 missile one, and the Arctic Cheetah E.
Yep.
Just
You'll
pull
have
down.
7 days left after this podcast actually, and I mean, it's pain in the ass.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Pain in the ass.
if it's only 7 days, if you're only hearing about this the first time during this podcast, probably don't bother. I don't think this is gonna be fun to complete in 7 days.
I mean, 9,500 match score you need. Damage with the RPPCs and clan Serm 6s.
Yes, SRM 4s, those are
yes,
weapons that you kinda never ever use.
I use them with some mechs, but not a whole lot of them though. But yeah, it's generally though it's a pain in the butt. But I mean, if you can do it, cool. Basically, if you're that good, and then you
Yeah,
get
I've
the
been seeing
javelin.
a lot of wonky builds out there,
Yeah,
trying to get this event done.
well, like
And
when it first began, like all I saw was Serm 6 clan mechs running around.
That explains the SRM 6 single ERPPC rifleman I saw
Yeah.
earlier. I
Mhm.
was like, what the fuck kind of build is that? That explains.
Exactly. Exactly.
Rifleman 2C. Oh, because there is one with missile hard points, like just a couple.
Yeah, he had 4
Yeah.
SRM 6s in a single ERPPC, and he played it really weirdly. And like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, there were some builds that were weird, but yeah, the Guiding Light pretty cool, but a pain in the butt nonetheless.
Hey, you can get an XL255. Back in my day, there was the XL engine to have. You could fit it in a Spider and a Commando, all the good light mechs when XL255. Back then.
Back in your day.
Many years ago.
Okay.
I have fond memories of the XL255. It's one of those engines when we first got XL engines that was really expensive compared to anything else in the game back then. So the XL255 was one of those engines you bought 2 or 3 of and then just manually placed in whatever mech you wanted to play that time.
Mm.
And it was a pain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good old times.
Last thing is just you're putting in you can't just play the game normally and get a bunch of rewards, but is it really worth pursuing the light mechs, these particular mechs in particular? And I'm like,
Eh.
I haven't seen the Arctic Cheetah in ages because it's just made of paper and its agility kind of sucks, and it's just fallen behind in the meta for the most part. And the medium laser javelin, uh, I mean, I have that mech because they gave it the ghost heat quirk, so you can fire 7 medium lasers at once, and I would do fairly good damage in it every match. But I named it the Kill Me because it was such a depressing mech to play that no matter how hard I tried to carry in this thing, it just it's made of so much paper. I can't I can't I can't tank for the team in it. I don't know, that's not what normally people do with light mechs, but it's just I'm pulling 1000 damage, 800 damage every match, 600 damage or so with this in every match, and it's still not enough. And it's just like, I both of these mechs are ones if I want to be depressed, I play both of these mechs. It's the long and short of it. And there's
Jeez.
way better light mechs out there.
Yeah. They're okay, I guess. I think I have the javelin, but I literally never used it. It's not my favorite mech to or one of my mechs to use or what I
Yeah,
like to use.
the Javelin, especially at the time, just suffered from the impression we've got from the Assassin, with the Assassin being such a good mech at the time of the Javelin release. And the Javelin just felt like a worse Assassin in every way.
And the Arcticheaty, the only
Even
time.
on
Sorry, good.
So yeah, just even on launch, the Javelin was of course a way inferior assassin. It's just it has some nice hard points, but that doesn't mean it should have bad agility and quirks on top.
Yeah, yeah, like the Arctic Cheetahs, I only used with you guys when we did the machine gun like Arctic Cheetah thing, where we all had Arctic Cheetahs and we just had machine guns. It was
Did we do
like 3 years
Cheetah?
ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago.
I
A long
felt
Yeah,
t-
we did
like
that
that was a
ages ago.
Mistlings
yeah,
one.
that's the only time that I actually used the Arctic Cheetah that I had. It's crazy. But we had, yeah, we had what 12 Arctic Cheetahs with like machine guns. We just swarmed every
It
mech we
was a
could.
mix. A
Oh, mix.
mix,
Okay,
like
that's right.
because not everyone had a mislinks, because mislinks is
Oh, mislinks.
typically
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah.
not too great. But yeah, some people only had the Arctic Cheetah because they only had the small pulse lasers on it, and it's like,
Yeah, I
oh come on
remember.
man, just turn it into a machine gun mech. You can do that now, and it's like, yeah, sure, okay, why
I
not?
remember those
Good.
poor people, the peasants who couldn't afford the Mistlings, the fun one, and came
Yes.
out with the Arctic Cheetah. Well,
Yeah.
at least the Arctic Cheetah is bigger than a Mistling, so they drew fire off the people who actually mattered in that game.
It was machine guns and flamers, so we just
Yes,
jump
Yeah.
that poor like
it was great.
marauder, just shut them
Oh
down.
God, I still have
I
that
miss
like as
those
a short,
days.
man. Yeah.
12-man queues against random teams. Those were the days.
I miss brawling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But yeah, in
so
general,
in general,
play the game a bunch, get 2 mechs. The structure of the event is similar to last one. Structure is decent. You get premium time at the beginning. You get a bunch of random stuff throughout. It's a good event. Looking forward to the next. Personally, not gonna finish this one because I just didn't have time to play thanks to Mechwarrior 5 anyway.
yeah, same here. Okay, next is a Mechwarrior 5 Shill package. We'll get Ian to go pop that up real quick. And some
Oh.
people got this. It's in Discord there. Some
Yeah,
people
okay.
got this. Major streamers from what I saw. I don't know if it's um it was just major streamers that got this package, and it had the controller and a t-shirt. And this is part of their marketing, I guess, their marketing campaign that they did, that they gave it to people, to the major ones, I guess, and not the people. Say like Barittle should have got this. Like a couple other streamers should have got this. Like BrioS should have definitely got this for doing everything that they do. And I never heard of Berkey Black. I never heard of that guy. I mean, apparently he has a lot of viewers, but I mean, I never heard of this guy as far as in the community. And I think they just kind of gave it to the big ones that would bring in more people, I guess.
Yeah, but none of the really big ones, like big gear streamers, but not the top end streamers. So whatever they could afford,
Yeah, yeah.
presumably.
You know, please play our
If
game, and
you're one of the biggest streamers, you can get like a whole computer for free.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if
you're not
you talk about
you're
it.
not gonna bother playing a game just because they send you a controller that looks techy.
it looks kind of cool. I wouldn't mind it. That's kind of neat. Basically, MechWarrior 5 little controller. The box looks awesome, actually.
The box looks great. The controller looks, I don't know. I don't want to call it awful, but I don't have a nicer word for it.
I
That's not
think
bad.
the big blocks of orange are a little garish.
Mm,
The kind of the scattered kind of it almost looks like a starry pattern underneath. That is kind of cool, or at least it's fine. I kind of like the patterning, but the orange, yeah, and I like orange, but the orange is a bit garish.
maybe just a orange for the MechWarrior 5 and knock out the two side ones. Just don't even have those, I guess, would be a little bit better. But
So
still,
I think the
uh,
central little
mm,
below MW5 thing is, if they use your controller, people can see your branding. That you want the branding big, so that when they make use of the free controller,
yeah.
everyone can see it. That's the idea. But yeah, I mean, this is just like when you go to conventions, sometimes people give you like free goodie bags, and the
Hmm.
idea is just you'll think more nicely or remember this franchise a lot more when you actually have something with its name on it than if you get nothing.
I
And
kind of miss conventions.
God, I
I
do
hope
too, man.
we
yeah,
get a convention in Europe with PGI being present, so I can get one of those T-shirts.
can we
I would
actually
wear a
see
Mechwarrior 5
the?
shirt.
I don't know what the t-shirt design actually looks like. It's just wrapped up on this preview image.
Yeah,
Just gonna see if
that guy
they
has it there, like that.
reposted it.
Go up to the bearded guy. Yeah, that guy has it there. He's gonna show it. Yeah, see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's just got the name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, still kind of cool package, but I think they, as a thank you, they should have. I mean, Burial does stuff every day. BrioS does really good videos, and a couple of those people, they should have got that too. Basically, like based off that, not just these guys are going to play the game for like 1 or 2 sessions and then take off and go do something else. That's the issue that I have.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of, the direction that PGI sort of been. They're aiming for the mainstream crowd. That's why they went Epic Games Store. They
Yeah,
wanted to get a wide audience with that. The PC gaming show, they just showed off the game to everybody. Like, even though BattleTech is, sort of a niche franchise, with a dedicated fandom, they aren't looking to cater to them so much as they're trying to become Call of Duty, so to
yeah,
speak, or
yeah,
at least
yeah.
that's the long and short of it. So you go after these big streamers and give them goodies, you don't reward your most dedicated fans because your dedicated fans are already there and producing content for you anyway.
Yeah, but the thing is, like these guys are gonna throw the T-shirt in a laundry basket, forget about it, type thing. Like compared to your dedicated fans, will put up in a I don't know, like a box, glass
Yeah,
case or something.
but
It's
they're
it's a
Yeah,
hoping
difference of
this guy,
philosophy, Bob. Like
they'll
you
post it
can
in
either
Twitter.
spend your money on
So,
marketing or you can spend your money on thanking your fans, and it comes down to whatever agency, a marketing agency you have, and whatever
yeah,
have
true,
they
true,
yeah,
tried.
true.
I feel like Harebrained Schemes is one of those studios that I would expect to go more of the thank you route.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
hmm
but a big publisher like EG7, yeah, the business use case just isn't there to go to do thank you packages.
EG7 will not know about a lot of the streamers you mentioned, sadly.
Yeah. Oh well, that happens, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, it is what it is,
Yeah,
and it's it's relatively cheap to just reskin a controller and make a box and just have a T-shirt. So yeah, the opportunity cost is low, and the number of eyeballs you get on Mechwarrior 5 is high,
yeah, oh
But
relatively
yeah.
then again,
speaking.
the new Xbox controller is fairly expensive, and shipping is always a major issue.
Yeah,
Well, to get a custom controller, probably that's about $50, $50, $60, maybe, basically, and
Isn't the
then.
new Xbox controller $60 alone?
I thought it was like 30. Well, last time I bought
I
an
mean,
Xbox controller was like
completely off topic. I just
25.
remember
So,
controllers are expensive because I wanted to buy one for the Mechwarrior 5 cinematic cameras, and I was surprised how expensive they were.
well, last one I bought retail was $25 a long time ago. So that tells you like how
Mhm.
long I bought one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ancient days.
yeah, that was back in God, that was
the,
you know.
compared to your advertising budget, though, this is it's a drop in the ocean.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, definitely so.
I think they pay them way more to have a big streamer, play the game for a couple of hours for one day than they would to buy a controller.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
so
right.
yeah, that's it for episode 149 of the First Circuit Podcast. Tonight's hosts were Ian.
Bye bye. Hopefully next time someone will join me with a
I'll
face.
join you with a face, okay? And
Yay.
Biter.
My icon has a face. That's almost good enough.
And myself with no face, old Bob10025. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything you guys do for the podcast. And we will see you on the battlefield.